Good evening. Welcome to Sports Sunday. Rumors are swirling in Ann Arbor this evening that University of Michigan Athletic Director Warde Manuel could be out of a job as soon as this week. Multiple sources reporting tonight that Manuel's future at U of M is in doubt in the wake of a report concerning the internal investigation into the Sharon Moore saga that unfolded last year. A university board meeting is scheduled for Thursday where officials are expected to further respond to the report about Sharon Moore. Sources say Manuel could accept a buyout at that meeting. Michigan State hired an interim athletic director of its own on Friday, promoting assistant AD John Palumbo to the interim spot following Jay Batt's departure to Kentucky. Palumbo was hired by Batt last year after a brief stint as the interim AD at Georgia Tech after Batt took the Michigan State job.